Some Kind of Happiness, Chapter 19. I've started accompanying Grandpa on his drives. Not every one of them, otherwise, I'd be out of the house nearly every afternoon, but some of them. I never have to ask him to let me go with him, not after the first time. I don't want to bother him. I understand how a person might want to have time to himself. Sometimes when I'm sitting alone in a quiet room with only my Everwood stories for company, I feel like I'm truly me. I do not have to talk when I don't want to. I can get lost in my thoughts and not miss anything other people think is important. I do not have to pretend to be happy when I am not feeling happy. So usually I wait until Grandpa finds me. Every afternoon before his drive, I hold my breath and listen while Grandpa moves through the house. I hear the jingle of his car keys, the garage door open and shut, then he's gone. But today, he finds me in the squashy armchair by the giant living room window. The house is quiet because Grandma is napping. I'm trying to work on an Everwood story, but I cannot stop thinking about the bone house and the list of questions tucked inside my notebook. Feel like going for a drive? He asks. Can we listen to Beethoven? He smiles. I'd like that. Most of the time, Grandpa takes the same route through Billington, and we end up at the farm stand and buy a basket of strawberries. Today, we go in a different direction. Instead of turning left out of the Hart House driveway, we turn right. We take a country road out to these big rolling prairie fields full of grazing cows. The sky is huge, a cloudless blue carpet that never ends. Nothing gets in its way. No trees, no buildings, no mountains. The second movement of the Pastoral Symphony is playing. It is this really sleepy part of the symphony that sounds like a slow dance. Grandpa isn't talking today, and I'm not sure why. Usually he asks me about things back home, like my friend Rhonda next door, or how in art class last year I painted a forest in tiny pieces of color like a stained glass window. But not today. He stares out the window ahead of us, not looking at the sky or the fields of cows. He turns the volume of the radio up and down. He looks very tired. At a stop sign he rubs his face, sliding his glasses up his forehead. My notebook with the newspaper article inside sits in my lap like a brick. Words rush out of me. Auntie took me to the library this morning. I found out about the Travers fire. Grandpa finally snaps out of his tiredness and looks at me. What? It says Aunt Bridget and Dee and Stick, they were heroes. I take out one copy of the article to show him. Grandpa snatches it away from me. He looks at it for much longer than it would take to read the article. The paper trembles in his hands. How come no one ever talks about it? Now that I have brought it up, I might as well ask my questions. I think it's really nice. They must have been so brave. Watching him, I breathe very carefully. My heartbeat gets louder and louder. Maybe this was a terrible idea, although I cannot imagine why. Does it have something to do with Dad? Why isn't he in the article? Grandpa is scaring me with the terrible, lost looking expression on his face, but all the same, I have to. My words rush out. So how come Dad? Finley, this is a very painful this was a very painful time for everyone, he says abruptly, crumpling the article into a ball and throwing it out the window. It was frightening for us and for your aunts, and sad for a lot of people, and I prefer we not talk about it. But, end of discussion. Can't we just enjoy the day? He drives from the stop sign. Beethoven's music sounds unbearably loud. Grandpa, I whisper, because it's really bothering me. You littered. He sighs sharply. I know, and I shouldn't have. Can we go back and pick it up? No! I try to scoot away without him noticing. My eyes are stinging, and I look out the window so he can't tell. We drive for a long time until we reach a dead end, a dirt road, a no trespassing sign. Grandpa sighs, turns the car around, and stops. I'm sorry, Finley. I shouldn't have snapped at you. There was no excuse for that. Can you forgive me? I nod because the last time I opened my mouth, things came out that apparently should not have. And my question about Dad, it balances there on my tongue, itching to be said. Good. Thank you. Grandpa starts driving again. The music waltzes through our silence. Why don't you read me something out of your notebook? Something that makes you happy. That sounds like an awful idea. I do not read things out of my notebook to people. It is my own private space. But Grandpa looks so hopeful, and if this will make his conscience feel better about littering, then perhaps I should help him with that. All right. I flip through my notebook. making sure to hide the second copy of the article so we won't crumple that one up too. I like to make lists sometimes. Oh, what kind of lists? All kinds. Like, I have this one, for example. He glances over it. What is it? I hesitate. Why I love my dad? Don't ask the question, Finley. Let's only talk about nice things just now. Nothing about then, nothing about why. Grandpa goes quiet for a while. Then he says softly, will you read it to me? I scan the page. Some of these are from a long time ago. They're kind of cheesy. That's all right. Go ahead. So I do. Why I love my dad. He is tall. He is strong. He sings songs. Brown eyes like me. He tells me funny stories about Yellow Peach. My stuffed rabbit, I explained to Grandpa. He nods and I keep reading. He likes pizza. He dresses up for Halloween and other dads don't. When he writes, he makes funny faces, but I pretend I don't see. But he knows I see. When I have nightmares, he doesn't think it's silly. He pronounces Beethoven Beeth oven because it's funnier that way. He is a good teacher. He doesn't like scary movies either. I read and read. The list is 57 items long. When I get to number 57, I say, he, and pause. I added this last one a couple of weeks ago. What is it? Grandpa asks. It's stupid, I tell him. I doubt that. You don't want to finish? You won't laugh? I won't. I take a deep breath and say the last item on my list. He looks like Grandpa. Like he promised, Grandpa doesn't laugh. He holds my hand instead, even though I'm pretty sure one-handed driving is unsafe and illegal. He doesn't say anything, but he doesn't need to. The symphony continues and the cow fields roll us back toward home, and that's enough for me. Chapter 20. That evening before dinner, I show Gretchen and Kennedy the newspaper article Grandpa did not throw away, and I tell them everything I learned about the Traverses fire. We agree not to talk about it with the little ones, and we are certainly not mentioning anything to the adults. I learned my lesson after trying to discuss it with Grandpa. Obviously, something is being kept from us. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have heard about the fire by now, and how my aunts tried to save the Travers family. My cousins would have already known about it. They would have told me right away about after finding the bone house. They wouldn't want to hide that their mothers are town heroes. I'm glad I'm not the only one who didn't know about this. We are in this mystery together, my cousins and I. I tell Jack everything in a note and leave it in the post office with the article. Jack's response, a couple of hours later, says this: Dear orphan girl, I didn't know about your aunts in the fire either. Cole says same for him. I noticed one thing. Why doesn't the article talk about your dad? It says your aunt saw the fire and it talks about your grandparents, but it doesn't say anything about him. That's weird, right? Your friend, Captain Jack. P.S. Don't worry, we won't talk about this to the troll either. Standing beside the post office, I stare at the article, which Jack has returned to me. A messy circle in a blue ink surrounds the paragraph talking about my aunts and not my father. So Jack noticed it too. Even if the article just said, thankfully, the youngest Hart, Louis 14, wasn't home at the time and did not have to witness this terrible tragedy, that would have made sense to me. So why doesn't it at least say that? I stare at the photos included in the article. The burned bone house, my three aunts, golden haired, Grandma and Grandpa standing behind them with their hands on my aunt's shoulders. Grandpa's face is blank. Grandma's smile is gentle and sad. It looks, I think, just like someone should look if they're being photographed after something awful has happened. Dad may not be in this article, but he has to know about the fire. And if that's the case, why has he never told me about it? Even with everything that happened and his huge fight with Grandma, it seems strange that he would have been able to resist telling such a dramatic story for 11 years. He's hiding something from me. They all are. My aunts, my grandparents. I'm going to find out what. We sneak out after dinner to meet with the Baileys. Avery is covering for us again, but I don't think she's happy about it. This time, Dex, Ruth, and Bennett are coming with us. Gretchen is making notes on her map of the Everwood, which she does every time we're outside. Jack has a backpack crammed full of cleaning supplies. So do I, and so does Kennedy. We are quite serious about cleaning tonight. I have insisted upon it. The bone house needs us. I raided the pantry and the garage, sneaking things back up to my room while the adults were busy. I am a thief. It feels good. I try to think about that feeling instead of the article or the fire or my father. Gretchen and Kennedy are arguing about something. hissing back and forth. The sounds become wrapped up in the whispering trees until I cannot tell the two apart. Ahead of them, Cole is herding Dex, Ruth, and Bennett like cattle. So back here it is just Jack and me. I like that. I think I have a crush on Jack. This is not the first crush I've had. Last fall, when Dad was working on an important journal article and Mom was wrapped up in a huge house renovation, we ordered cheap pizza all the time. The delivery boy was freckled and a teenager and had shaggy, sandy colored hair. He smiled at me and remembered my name. I quickly fell in love with him. At least I think it was love. I have read about falling in love, and I have watched movies in which people fall in love. Whenever the delivery boy came to the door, I could feel myself becoming silly, like I might start either crying or laughing at any moment. After a couple of weeks, he stopped delivering pizza to us. At this point in my life, I like to think he got a better job or went on vacation. But at the time, I feared he had sensed my love and run as fast as he could in the other direction. I did not eat pizza after that, even though refusing pizza and requesting Chinese instead made Dad cranky. The sight and smell of pizza had become too painful. Every time I even thought about it, my throat clenched up and my stomach flipped over, and I wished the world would swallow me up so I wouldn't have to ever feel that way again. If that's what falling in and out of love is like, it's no wonder Mom and Dad don't want me around this summer. It occurs to me that this is the first time I have accepted the possibility that Mom and Dad are not in love anymore. It sort of feels like I'm noticing this about someone else's parents. I'm like a doctor observing something strange about my patients, who are nice, but I don't have to be friends with them or anything. Are you okay? Jack asks, his finger crooked into a pirate's hook. You look kind of intense. Jack absolutely cannot know I have been thinking about love and crushes and other delicate subjects. Instead, I say the first thing that comes up into my head. So, what's up with your dad? Right, because Jeffrey Bailey, the drunk driver, is not a delicate subject at all. Jack freezes for a second. What do you mean? Do not say you have been secretly researching his family, Finley, whatever you do. Just wondering. You never talk about him or your mom. Jack starts walking again, his hands in his pockets. His arms are so skinny they're mostly elbows. Well, my parents are being held captive too, of course. By the troll? Right. I take a deep breath and concentrate on the sensation of my legs taking a step, another step. You're weird tonight, Finley, Jack informs me. What's going on in that orphan girl brain of yours? Grandma missing Dad? Does he miss her? Jeffrey Bailey being arrested for drunk driving? The dying everwood trees and the newspaper articles and blood heroines and a dead child named Cynthia Travers? How Jack smells like dirt and sweat, which is not as disgusting a smell as you might think. But I do not want to scare Jack away. I will not tolerate another pizza delivery boy disaster. I don't know, I say random stuff. Super random, Jack agrees, but it's okay. I like random. We sir we have reached the bone house. The dry grass of the wasteland makes strange scratchy noises, and the open air makes me feel lonely, although I'm surrounded by people. It's a feeling I'm used to. Kennedy figures we can be away from Hart House for an hour without the adults getting suspicious. Currently, as is their custom, they are gathered at the dining room table playing dominoes and drinking after dinner cocktails and probably not thinking about us at all. But you cannot be too careful. So we move fast. We pull on thick gardening gloves from Grandpa's workbench and take pieces of rotting wood and scraps of ruined furniture outside. Jack and Gretchen sweep dirt and leaves out of the kitchen into the living room and out the open side of the house into the field. Kennedy and Cole scrub the countertops. I gather trash into big garbage bags. Jax, Ruth, and Bennett work on the floor. Although it is so badly damaged, I'm not sure it will ever be clean. It will take us many trips to make a noticeable difference here. But we will make this house look something like a home again, little by little. We owe it to the Travers family. I take a garbage bag outside and, with Gretchen's help, lift it into the bed of an old pickup truck. Everything stinks. I almost gag at the smell. But Gretchen looks completely unaffected, so I try to look that way too. What it means to be a heart. You look pretty even after sprinting across a forest. You look completely unaffected even when you are up to your eyeballs in garbage that smells like feet and rotten eggs. Back inside the house, Gretchen stops and makes a horrible face. Oh, gross. Do you think they're like into each other? I follow Gretchen's glare to the sink where Kennedy and Cole are having a dirty paper towel fight. The more Kennedy giggles, the darker Gretchen's expression becomes. So what if they are? I say. Once I had a huge crush on the pizza delivery boy. That's different, Gretchen whispers. She can like all the pizza delivery boys she wants, but Cole is a Bailey. Gretchen, you don't know anything about them. I know Grandma and Grandpa hate their guts. That's enough for me. What does that matter? We've been hanging out with them for days now. Gretchen blows hair out of her face. I have my eye on him, is all I'm saying. Jack shows up out of nowhere and grabs another bag of trash to take outside. Gretchen scowls and stalks away, and I follow Jack into the backyard. We're quiet for a few minutes, going back and forth between the kitchen and the truck with whatever trash we can carry. I started to worry that I should say something. Most of the time, I think I could be perfectly content without saying a single word, but no one else seems to function that way. There's so much talking in the world, and so much expectation to talk, even if you do not like the feeling or like talking. I find it overwhelming. Sorry about Gretchen, I say. Whatever. I'm not worried about her. Jack squints one eye shut and jumps onto the truck's open tailgate. Arr! I am wise in the ways of the world, orphan girl. I have sailed across many seas and made port in many lands. One night is not enough to scare me. I laugh, and Jack jumps down beside me, grinning. Come on, he says, let's go visit them. I do not have to ask who he's talking about. How wonderful a thing that is to understand someone else without even trying to. We crawl through the big oak trees' branches and sit on the dirt by the Travers family's gravestones. Jack's knee bumps against mine. My thoughts are a whirl of, well, to be honest, I'm not quite sure. So I take a second to organize a list in my mind. About Jack Bailey. Jack does a great pirate accent. When he says my name, it sounds beautiful. When he smiles at me, I cannot help smiling back. Jack is a Bailey. The evening is still hot and still around us, but under this tree we are in a cocoon of cool mud and night noises and shifting leaves with 1,000 different voices. My shirt is sticky from all the cleaning, and when the wind trickles past us, I shiver. Do you think it hurt them? Jack asked quietly. You know, when they died? Yes. Jack looks at me. That doesn't freak you out? What doesn't? Dying. I guess other things freak me out more. I hesitate, but Jack seems interested. Like what? He asks. I should not have said anything. I don't know, stupid stuff. I'll tell you what I'm scared of. Yeah? Totally, let's see. Jack settles back on his arms and watches the leaves move overhead. Tornadoes, comets, like flying off course and crashing into the earth, dolls. I crack up. Dolls? Yep, dolls. Hey, don't laugh. They have these tiny little demon faces. Like if you look away, they'll jump on you and suck out your souls, you know? I think that might just be you. Fine, fine, believe what you want. But when the dolls rise up, you'll think about this moment and wish you listened to me. I lean back against a branch. The tree sways ever so slightly in the wind, and I let it rock me. So what are you afraid of, Finley? Jack asks. I told you mine. What I am afraid of. What Mom and Dad are talking about while I'm gone. That I will never be a real heart. My blue days when I feel like I'm stuck underwater where everything is slow and cold. When I lose myself and my brain speeds up and my heartbeat speeds up and everything inside me comes crashing down until I can hardly remember what it feels like to breathe without 100 stones stacked on my chest. That, I will feel like this for the rest of my life. Jack? Yeah. Looking at the gravestone of Frank Travers, I think about how the Bone House must have looked when they were all alive. 2 solid stories, maybe 3 solid bedrooms, whole and breathing and warm with light. Strong like a house should be. Like I am not. Can I tell you later? I asked Jack. When? Sometime, I promise. Jack yawns. Okay, deal. About Jack Bailey. When you promise him something, he'll believe you, no questions asked. Before we leave, we construct a tiny shrine to the Travers family under the stars that lead up to the second floor. We find this chair with a stained, frayed cushion and wobbly legs, and on the chair we arrange the framed picture of the Travers family, along with one of the coffee cups we found in the kitchen, a couple of books from the living room, and one of Cynthia Travers's stuffed animals, a purple dog with one ear and one eye, but it is still smiling hopefully. Even Ruth is quiet while we stand by the shrine, listening to the wind move through the house. A train horn sounds and the spell is broken. Good night, Kennedy says, waving at the Travers family photo. See you soon. Everyone files out after her and does the same thing, saying goodbye to the Travers family like they are real people instead of ghosts. I am the last one out, and as I step onto the porch, I notice Cole give Kennedy our stolen box of dues. I had forgotten all about it. I search for the proper word to describe the expression on his face. Adoring? Soft? Bashful? Nervous? None of them quite work. His expression is all of those things at once and more. The best way to describe it is this: Mom and Dad used to look at each other like that.